let's say you're dating someone and the relationship is, getting pretty good there, but the infamous topic comes up of body count. So, what's the magic number? What would make you question, should I stay with her? Does body count really matter? I mean, if you're in a relationship, we all have past. How do you get over your partner's past, especially if maybe their body count is a little higher than yours? Should you even bother talking about body count? These are some of the juicy questions I want to talk about today. So let's get real, people. We're not living in Disneyland. Everyone has a past. There's no prince or princess that's been, saving themselves for you. People have past. And sometimes those pasts can include some pretty steamy, provocative things. Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I'm your host, Chuck Chapman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Faisal Koker and Ari Graf, and we are nice guys who've transformed into integrated men. And our mission is to help other men develop confidence and skills and get the love and the sex and the success that they desire in life. Don't remember when this happened, but it was when my wife and I were first dating. Somehow the topic of body count came up, and she sort of like nonchalantly threw a number out there. And now you have to understand that both of us were a little bit older. This was our second marriage, and we both had past. So when she threw the number out there, I was a little bit like, huh, interesting. And it wasn't too big of an issue because, being competitive, I was like, okay, my body count's higher. But I was a little surprised at the number. Still, felt this little bit of jealousy because I started thinking about other guys that she was with. Maybe they were better than me. Maybe they were, I don't know, better hung, better, more, sexual. So I want to start this topic today and talk about body count and just kind of some of the ideas around that. So let's start with you, the man who has a higher body count than John Wick, Faisal. What are your thoughts on the topic?
Okay. This is a really, I would say, aggravating topic, especially for women. And I've had this conversation many times with women. And as I was, I want to add a note to this. As I was reclaiming my masculinity, when I had the feminine narrative or the feminine template of life, it didn't really bother me because all the women around me were saying, oh, yeah, body count's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And I thought, okay, I bought into that. And later on, when I discovered more about evolution psychology, human behavior, then I started really delving into this. And I too, Chuck, felt like a lot of guys, like you, like a lot of men, when I found out that she's been with a certain amount of men, it gave me the ick. When that number was like distasteful, it was like, ugh, it made me jealous. It made me feel inadequate. It also made me feel it made me question things. But the main thing was it just gave me the ick. It was, and after my divorce, I've been with girls, I was exploring my, as they call it, the man whore stage. And in that stage, I've been with many women some had very high body counts. Some were in open relationships. They did a lot of sex parties and things like that. And then I've been with girls who had very little body counts. And the ones I was really interested in, I invested in, that's where it really bothered me. Girls who were like one night stands, friends with benefits, it didn't make a difference. Now, does body count matter? Yes, to the person it matters. Right? There are some guys and there's some women, it doesn't matter. But what I've learned, body count does matter. Now, it matters to women. Most women it matters to, unconsciously or subconsciously. Because how do I know this, right? Most women will say something, but in the background, it really matters to them. So, for example, if you said to me, does body count matter? I was reading on Facebook the other day and it said, women were saying, oh no, body count doesn't matter. Be yourself, be free, be liberated, right? And all the guys are really confusing, like, no, we don't believe this. So there was a real bone of contention between the guys, what they were feeling, and what they were, what the women were saying, and a lot of guys were going against the grain. And what I noticed was those men, and I've been one of those guys who was shamed for having that ick.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
if
here's
if
what.
you have a reaction of like, oh, that's, then you get shamed for having that reaction.
Yeah, it's like she's had a lot of body counts. So let me ask you, if it doesn't matter to women, then why do most women lie about their body count?
Question. And are they lying about their? And my guess is they're not lying about high figures. They're bringing it way down, right?
Yeah, I remember.
And here's the weird thing is like guys are like the opposite. We'll lie
Yeah,
about body count, but we'll up it. Like
yeah. So
there's
it's usually,
there's more
well,
prestige in the more women that you've been with. Yeah.
yeah. There's that. I think there's that stat where the guys will three times it and women will divide it by three, and it happened. It happened with. I
Three
was,
times it? Really?
yeah,
Three times.
yeah, and so there was
Three
a life
thousand?
coach.
That's a lot for me.
Wilt
I was
Chamberlain?
There was a life coach. There was a female life coach, and she was talking about relationships. And I knew this. And she, we got to the topic of body count, and she was with the guy. And I said, "What's your body count?" And she told me a number, and I went, "I got the ick." I was like, "Ah!" And I said, "Oh, does he know your boyfriend?" She goes, "No way would I tell him that." She goes, "He'll be disgusted by it." So
Mm,
naturally, she instinctively knew that
yeah.
if she shared that, so I want to hear what Ari thinks as well. But
Yeah.
Mother Nature, and I'm going to use the word Mother Nature, has programmed something about body counts that gives the men the ick, and it also makes women shame other women for it as well.
Yeah. Ari, what are your thoughts on body count and jealousy and all of those things?
I don't know. I want to say that it doesn't matter that much to me. Like that, it matters more. Like, are they able to focus on me when we're in a relationship? That they're not distracted by other men.
Okay. So let me throw this out here then. So
But
if you were
well,
out with,
I was going to say, yeah, I had a woman tell me she had 50 to 70 partners,
mm-hmm.
and that did turn me off.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't think I'm totally immune to
Did
feeling
it give
kind
you
of
the ick?
ick.
Feeling
Yeah,
the
Give you the ick.
okay.
it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's sort of a question raiser.
Uh-huh.
200, 200 guys, is that a deal breaker?
Yeah, what would be
300,
the number where you'd be like,
400. It's
Do you have
good.
a number? Do you have like an upper limit that?
Yeah,
sure,
I do.
probably. I haven't really thought about it, but I'm sure I do.
Yeah,
I've got a number.
200. That seems like that's a lot of partners.
That's a lot of.
That's a lot of partners.
What's
That's a
your
lot of.
number, Faisal?
Okay, so depending on where she's going to be in my, I call it my circle or my sphere, right? So, for example, if it's friends with benefits, if it's just sex, one night stand, numbers irrelevant. I don't really care
Mm,
about the number.
You're probably not going to have the conversation, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be on her stats,
yeah.
is it? It's not going to be on her dating profile. Maybe it should be. That'd be interesting.
Mm,
If
mm,
I'm looking to invest in her, as in make her monogamous or get into a committed relationship, then if that goes into double figures, I'm really questioning. I'm really questioning like what's going on here,
mm, mm,
because
mm.
to me, if she's been with a lot of guys, here's how I see it. It takes a lot of strength for men to restrain themselves from sexual stuff, right? It takes a lot of strength for men to restrain themselves from porn, right?
Okay.
And being desperate for sexual, giving sexual attention on Instagram, social media, everything, right? So porn. It takes a lot of strength for a woman to say no to sex, because she can get sex anytime she wants. For women, it's easy to get sex. For men, for the average woman to get sex is very difficult. For the average woman, just can go into a bar and within 5 minutes some guy's going to hit on her, and then she can go back to his place. I'm not saying that a lot of women will do that, but I'm saying opportunity is there and it's very easy. So the world doesn't reward you for what you can do easy. It's the world rewards you for what you can say no to. That's temptation.
Interesting. I like that.
So that's a reflection of their value.
What I found in my experience is that the more sexual fractures a woman has, the more she uses sex to get love.
Couldn't you say the same thing about a man?
Well, yeah, you could do that, but it takes a lot of, I would say, character work, skill, confidence, strength to get a lot of sex from men. The average guy probably has very low numbers. The average guy cannot get the amount of sex or get up the numbers that women can get. Right? I'm talking about the average guy. And the most guys that have a lot of sex is those, rare 20%. They're the ones going around procreating a lot.
Yeah, I would also argue that actually men can access sex pretty easily. I mean, all you have to do, if you pay for it, you can have it all day long, right? And there's another kind of ick factor in it of like for women, if a man's like been with prostitutes or women of ill repute, I think that that's a turnoff for them, and that's probably something at least I would imagine that, and well, not even imagine. I know, thinking of some clients and things like that they've told women that in the past, and the women like freak out about the fact that they've had sex with prostitutes or that they would pay for sex or something like that. That's a whole nother show we could talk about
on that topic.
I know, yeah. But I think the idea of I think it's just a really fascinating idea of like this idea of body count, and I've been seeing this topic show up more and more in my social media feeds of different thought leaders talking about the idea of body count. And some people are like, if she has a high body count, like don't even waste your time on her, because she's so fractured that there's no way that she'll ever be able to commit fully to you. And then I've heard other people are like you were saying, Faisal, about like, let's be free and open, and like it's sex. It's not like this, what other sort of function of the body do we tend to shame, or do we tend to look at like that's too much or that's too little? So I think there's a real power play in here that happens when you're with a person and this topic of body count comes up. And like it's a super sensitive subject, and like if you're honest about it, you're gonna put yourself into a situation where you might be rejected, and nice guys hate to be rejected, and so nice guys probably not going to admit that he has a high body count if he has one, and he's going to be icked out if he's with a woman who has a body count, especially one that's higher than his.
Have you ever noticed that for women it doesn't matter? I mean, they, in my experience, and I'm talking about experience here, she would prefer a guy who's been with a lot of girls than a guy who's been with no girls but paid for it. Yeah,
Sure.
and also what I notice is that for women, she wants that guy who's the reason why I see that guys who've paid for sex gives the women the ick is like, what kind of man needs to do that? Your masculinity has to be off. Your confidence, your character, your strength, being able. If you cannot have that, be able to procreate with another woman, that means that women don't want you. You're not desirable. That's a signal, a clue that she's getting.
Yeah. Then, I think that that matters to a woman unless the guy, is a millionaire. Then all of a sudden you've got a whole nother aspect of power and money that comes up.
Well, I know guys who are not millionaires, and they've had really high body count levels, really high. Talking about hundreds, and they're broke. But what they do is they give women an incredible experience. They give they make her feel so special that everything else in the past, it doesn't matter
Hmm.
to her. What matters now? Here's something interesting. Maybe, body count matters to some men, or most men. I would say most men. And what about men's history? What is it that the women get really maybe insecure about? Because one of the things I see that women get insecure about is, has he been married before? Has he engaged?
Hmm.
Has proposed? That's a kind of more thing. So for women, it's not more the physical aspect. I mean, it does play a massive part in it, but it's more the emotional part. So, for example, and there's been research done on this, that if men cheat physically, but there was no emotional
Right.
entanglement, yeah, she's more likely to, move on and forgive him. For guys, if there was an emotional entanglement, but there's no physical, he's more likely to forgive that. If it's been physical, he finds
Mhm.
that more challenging. So women place a lot more value on the emotions, whereas guys place a lot more value on the physical. And that's from Mother Nature's programming that we have.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's because like the programming is that for a man, okay, in our the programming is how do I extend my DNA into future generations? So for a man, he's looking for a woman who will raise his children, right? And a man can have sex with a whole bunch of different women and have a whole bunch, have a lot of children out there, right? Whereas a woman, she can only have one child at once every 9 months ish. And so uh, for the man, he's out there planting his seed everywhere. And for the woman, she can only have the seed planted one time. And I think it kind of goes back to that value thing you were talking about earlier, Faisal, of um, that rarity kind of thing. So if a woman has a high body count and she doesn't have any children, that means maybe she's not fertile. So I wonder if that's part of kind of a biological kind of thing going on in there, like your brain doesn't understand birth control and whatnot. Um,
But also
but
evolutionary,
yeah,
isn't it about that? If if a lot of guys can get her pregnant, then I don't know who's gonna if that's
yeah,
gonna be
that's true.
my
Sure,
if that's
sure.
going to be my kid or not. So therefore, I'm
Yeah.
going to give a lot of provisions to somebody else's gene. So therefore,
Hmm.
I've got to make sure that I protect that it's my gene. My gene gets procreated. My gene,
Yeah.
is passed on. So therefore, I'm
Right.
going to have a lot more sexual protection in that
Right.
aspect of it. So primal response is that I need to have sexual protection here. So I need to safeguard my woman getting pregnant by somebody else, and also safeguard my resources, my access to my provisions. So there's that
Hmm.
part of evolutionary that's, Mother Nature kicks in.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, no, as you were just saying that, I was thinking that um, that it's just interesting that jealousy is really probably more of a primal instinctual thing than it is an emotional logical kind of thing. That, I mean, in the here and now, it doesn't matter how many people somebody slept with. I mean, in terms of like pure logic, I guess. But if you're jealous about your partner's past, it's probably because there's this instinctual part of you that's like, I want somebody that's all mine. So,
So
what do you think? What do you guys ask this final question here? Should we even talk about body count? Is that an important topic, or is that something that's so personal that everybody should just have that to themselves? What do you think, Ari?
it doesn't come up that often for me in my dating. I'm wondering if it's something that comes up later in people's conversations. To me, it is important if I'm going to be in a longer term relationship with someone. Does that say something about their level of satisfaction uh, long term? Do they need sexual variety? Are they healed? Is this something where it was filling a void earlier in their life, but they're going to be more satisfied with monogamy now? So those are some of the questions that I think are relevant.
Faisal, any final words on body count?
Yeah, look, you got to have your own gauge. You got to find out what's someone. Body count to me is another way of filtering the kind of person you want, you value, right? So it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's what you value. I value low body count. That's a value to me, and that's what so I will filter for that. There's a lot of things I will value, not just body count. I will value how the outlook of life, how they see, did they have any affairs, did they cheat, emotional, physical. Those are things that I value, and so if I want somebody I want to commit to for long term or something like that, I will have very strong standards and filters. To me, these are a reflection of our standards, and everything that we do, our past as well, has consequences on that. I've been with girls with incredibly high body counts, and I know the struggles that they've had and why they have that. And to me, it's like, okay, I don't want somebody like that. That's not my standard. And I've also been with, and I've also had clients who've had extremely high body counts as well. And again, it's all about what's important to you, what you value, what your standards are. And it's important that we're not shamed for those standards, because there are women who will have standards and the guys will be like, oh, why does he need to have humor? Why does he need to have that? That's all shallow. But again, it's what people value. So let's respect what everybody else values, and understand that different things will give people the different ick, and understand that too. And also understand that things come from Mother Nature as well, and things come from your past, things that come from your insecurities. Of course, there's a lot that we got to deal with, just like you've got to deal with a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of The Nice Guy Show. Tell us what you think. Write something in the comments, like, does body count matter to you? Does it not matter? What do you think about this idea of body count? We'd love to hear what you guys think about this. So, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like, subscribe. It really helps us get this information out to more men. And if you're listening to us on one of your favorite podcast platforms, be sure to subscribe and rate us there as well. And you can always go to theniceguyshow.com. Get on our mailing list. We haven't sent out any mail at this point, but someday we might. So get on the list. So thanks again for joining us on The Nice Guys Show. And if you like this show, check out check out episode number 45. Does penis size matter? Overcoming your insecurities in the bedroom. Another hot topic related to sex. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time on The Nice Guy Show.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Kokar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes, and visit us on www.theniceguyshow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyshow.com. Thanks for listening.